Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is more King's Gambit. Now yesterday, I covered everything that happens when you take this pawn. And I kind of lied to you when I said there is nothing else for black except taking this pawn. That is not entirely correct, because black has a counter gambit. They have this. D5, the Falkbeer Countergambit. Now, typically, when someone offers you a gambit, your normal response isn't to offer one right back. The fact that this is a gambit is because white can take this for free. You're gambiting your center pawn, you're giving up actually some of your advantage, it's now back to level. But what you're doing is you're exploding everything. Black challenges the center, intending to develop quickly instead of taking. Instead of taking and wasting time with g5 and all sorts of things, you're wanting to get your pieces out and you're ready to get into the fight. Now, the only move really here for white that's played at master level is e takes d5. The engine, just by the way, prefers knight to f3 very subtly, but I don't know what it expects after this. It expects you to just take this. And this has been played. You're more than welcome to do it, but we're going to follow some more well-known theory, which is e takes d5. Now, the idea after that, there are two kind of ideas that get played here. There's e takes f4, which is the move that's most well played, and now knight to f3, because the queen h4 check, as we've discussed yesterday, is bad. It's dreadful for white, so you have to prevent that. Now there's knight to f6, seeking to just reclaim this pawn. It's wandered too far. Bishop to c4 is one last attempt to hang on with knight takes d5, and that knight is defended, so there's nothing you can do. Short castles here from white, and there you go. You've got the open f file, you've got bishop teaming up, you've got knight developed, you're going to get d4 and taking the pawn, and this is King's Gambit stuff. And actually, this has transitioned kind of out of the Falkbeer Countergambit kind of stuff and into what's called the Abbasia defense after 6 moves. And this is kind of something that can go forward, where what you're really doing is you're trying to create play. But just this position, if you're playing with the black pieces, it can create so much chaos for white. It can just create so much chaos. Now, put it this way. The only good moves are knight f3, which you've discussed, and e takes d5. Everything else is slightly better for black. Playing d3 to defend, slightly better for black. Playing knight to c3 to counterattack this is slightly better for black. And playing d4 is definitely better for black. So white already is on an arrow path. Let's look at knight to f3. As we said, there's in this position, you might expect this, but actually you can play e takes f4. And now white typically plays e takes d5. We'll get knight to f6 and bishop to c4. And we'll get a transposition back to what we saw already with knight takes d5 and short castles. Now there's bishop to e6. Threatening some discoveries, but not really. Now there's a couple moves you can play. You can drop the bishop back, which is what's played most, bishop to b3. If you would like to try and be tricky, you can play queen e2, which pins the bishop to the king. But, I mean, some calm development here, like knight to c6, because it's not a threat. D5 now, and you're ready to just about take that back. Queen d6 is the only other move, and now knight to c3, challenging in the center. You're not worried about takes because you can take back. Your bishop is defended by the nature of this pin, and by the nature the queen also defends it, but mostly by the pin. And then long castles. And now you're ready to fight. You can jump your knight into the center. You can, move your bishop. You can push the h-pawn forward. You can develop this bishop. This is a really good way to play. And it actually, for black, in a practical sense, the Falkbeer Countergambit probably is a better weapon than going into the main line. Because, as I stressed yesterday, most people will know the main line with black, but the main line is very difficult to play. Remember, the main line of the King's Gambit, as we discussed yesterday, is takes, knight to f3, and g5. This is like the main line, g5. This is the main line. This is what you have to play. Take some big cojones as black to play all this. I mean, you can get your bishop out, but I mean, your king's going to be weak. You have to probably go long. You haven't developed anything, and white is just going to dominate everything. You know, they play like h4. You've got to play g4. Now the knight jumps into e5. You get knight to f6. And then, you know, bishop to c4. And this is difficult to play as black because you've already got threats like this. So you've got to play your d5. You could probably just avoid all of that and just play d5 early and counter gambit. And white can go wrong here. As you've said, the best move is probably to take this, and then take this, and then we go down the lines as discussed. But white, for example, might take this. They might take like this. This is lost. If they take the wrong pawn, because queen h4 check. Here, and you get this. Which is just terrible. It's -5. And if this looks familiar, it should. Because how many of you will have played wayward queen attack? And then they try to kick you out, and you take this, and you just fork everything. So that is a line that can happen. Oh, sorry, wrong analysis there. Queen h4 check, yeah. You either have to move the king up, at which point you get mated. Not quite, but, like, this is terrible. And you're just going to run into problem after problem after problem. Because you're not going to be able to defend anything, and your king's going to have to go for a jog. So it's just bad. And then, you know, you only have this, and then you lose the rook. You know, there's like, Queen E2, I think is best according to the engine. And then rook. And black's a rook up. So the Falkbeer Countergambit is something definitely that black can keep in its repertoire. And if you're going to play the King's Gambit, you got to know which pawn to take or don't take any. Either do not touch any of these and bring your knight out, or you've got to make sure you take the right pawn. You've got to take the one they just put forward. Please do not think the idea of f4 is to ever take this, because you lose on the spot. And you might say, wait, hang on. Why don't we start with queen h4? What's the difference? Well, because now I can play g3, and there is no check. When you take the pawn here, the queen then has eyes on this from h4. That's the whole idea. So d5, and now white's got to make choices. The best choice is obviously to take this, or to bring the knight out. I mean, you can try this, but, you know, it's now very dubious. E takes f4. And, you know, knight takes d5. Black is better. Black is better depending on the depth of the engine, but better absolutely, and depending on the depth of the engine depends on how good they are. You're not worried about queen h4 in this line, because there's king e2, so you can play a bomb cloud. g3 loses, simply because there's takes, and you don't get away with knight to f3, because there's g2 check. g2 check, you take here, I take rook and make queen. Which is a very funny line that you can have a look into, ladies and gentlemen. But I hope this helps. Falkbeer Countergambit is goated. And it is a really good weapon. If your opponent wants to play very aggressively, it can neutralize everything, or it can just give you a completely winning position as black. It is a great, great weapon for the black pieces. And if white gets it, you best be prepared. As I said yesterday, do not play the King's Gambit without preparation. You need to know all of this stuff.